Hey everybody, Chill Pumpkin here. Today we're going to look at some vintage Halloween costumes and masks. Should be fun. Alright, here we go. So when I did my research for this, I really wanted to look at older stuff, like pre-80s. So I looked at a lot of like costumes and parties and masks and wanted to kind of start with this one. I really like this one, the World War Saturday Hero Halloween costumes. I thought this was really cool. The fact that Spider-Man's yellow is just interesting to me. And this is like encapsulates that era really well to see all these different costumes. So this is definitely one that I liked a lot. And I just like the colors of this advertisement, and it kind of showcases the costumes that were popular at this time. So first we're going to talk about masks and just the vintage look of these really old masks. I like the witch ones. I kind of like all of these, really. I don't personally own any old masks like this, but I just like the look of them. Here's another one where you can kind of see one in the box where just that retro colors, everything's so bright and the eyes are all cut out. These are honestly kind of creepy. They look kind of scary, but that's what I like about them is they're cartoony, but they could display really nice. People collect these. But back then, people would wear them and they looked really cool and they would come with like a full costume piece. Some of them did at least. But these are some of the favorites I found when I was looking these up. And I just, like I said, I like the colors and the way they pop out. And they're kind of timeless where, you see them in black and white and they look kind of scary. But seeing them in color, you can kind of appreciate them even more. They're kind of legendary in a way. I just love the old look of Halloween masks like this. So here's a closer up of some more masks. I really like that Medusa one. The colors and the contrast on it are awesome. And then you have the witch with it looks like little bat earrings. It's just that the details on these are, really well done. And the artists that made these are just obviously very talented, but just the way the colors pop on the mask are just really artistic. And that's why I said they would make really cool display pieces. I hope to find these someday. I've seen them occasionally, but they're usually pretty expensive, because they're old, so a lot of them have been lost and fallen apart. But I love the greens in this photo. I mean, all of it just kind of pops so well. And I'm sure wearing these masks then, they were really popular. And you see like reproductions now and everything. And here's a specific example here. Like this is an actual vintage one. I really like the packaging on it. The clown's just kind of creepy and the witch. And having this box like this is neat to see because there aren't a lot of surviving masks, like I was saying. A lot of them were gone and everything. So this is a perfect example of a mask in its original package, which I can really, really appreciate. And the artwork on it is just really, really awesome. So here's a specific example of the mask I was kind of talking about that come with a full costume. I'll post some like actual photos of people wearing these costumes that I found on Google doing my research for this. But this is kind of neat to see that, yeah, you could get the mask, but also get the costume with it. So you have the spaceman, the Frankenstein, and the chimpanzee, and they would come with like these plastic little costumes in these boxes. So it's neat to see these kind of as a complete look. Because, yeah, you're going to see them in these photos I post in a little bit here, but having the complete look, like you could purchase these as a complete set, I thought was really cool because I've never really seen these in person, and seeing them in package is something that's absolutely really cool. So here we go. Here's the perfect example of a kind of a costume that was, you purchase, you get the mask and the costume. And these just look really cool. You see action figures of these made today. I think it's NECA that maybe makes them, where you can kind of buy these minifigures that have costumes that look like this. But seeing like actual photos from this time period is pretty neat because you can see the costumes in action, and also that just the overall look, it looks really cool. It almost looks like a handmade costume, which I can appreciate. And it also adds like a creepiness factor. So yeah, this is a great example of one of those box costumes that kind of came in a set. So for the final part of the video, I want to look at costumes like this, where they're actual photos of, back then, but also a lot of these costumes look like they were handmade. That pumpkin looks like it's handmade. It's really cool. This really neat bat costume that looks like someone sewed together, which I can really appreciate. It's just neat that people loved Halloween back then so much. And that passion, like I said earlier, is still alive today. Just kind of self-portraits and stuff like that of older stuff, which I really enjoy, just seeing people in these old costumes and stuff that they put together or came up with the idea themselves. And then kind of group photos where, they're kind of scary. Something that was kind of thrown together, people didn't either have a place to buy costumes or the budget. So they came up with these costumes themselves and they're super scary. This is more of a colorful, bright one, which I think is pretty fun. Those plastic masks, obviously, we talked about earlier, are here. And this one kind of almost looks like it's something you'd see like on a creepy album cover or something, or old scary movie. Then you have this kind of classic eye costume that, if you Google vintage costumes or creepy costumes, I really like this one that, two people came up with this idea and made these eye themselves, which is really cool and kind of a really neat idea. I like this one a lot too. I think this is another one that could be like on a creepy album cover or movie cover or something like that. The fact that they, came up with these skeleton costumes and then also got these horses and, painted these, I'm sure by hand, and put them over the horses. This one's kind of creepy. This looks like it could be like from an old show, like Are You Afraid of the Dark? Or like an old horror movie from the 60s. It's just like this creepy skeleton. This one, again, where you see that these costumes were absolutely probably made by friends, family, and I'm sure they took a long time, and they look super creepy, but they're also really creative, so it's pretty cool. Also, just people out having fun back then. I'm sure some of these costumes, these pictures are from a long time ago, so seeing this makes me happy because, people really enjoyed it then, but these photos that are still out there. And then this one, again, kind of that creepy look. But also, people just out having fun and having that old look. This looks like somewhere, where people are just out trick-or-treating, having fun. I like the Peanuts costume here. It's really random in the picture, but it makes me laugh. It's just silly, but people getting together to celebrate Halloween at a party. And then here we just have some more kind of Halloween art, which is really cool, some neat costumes. Kind of like an advertisement for those full-on costumes, which I thought was really neat to see. And then some more additional art, people just coming up with ideas you maybe see in a catalog and stuff like that to kind of get inspiration. Or people will look at these and say, hey, I want to make something like that, and get creative by, getting inspired by all these costumes and everything. So yeah, I appreciate everyone taking time today to, watch this. Like I always say, thank you so much. And I really enjoyed looking at all these costumes and finding some stuff that was neat, creepy, colorful, and just really creative and interesting. So Halloween is great, and everyone have a good day. Thank you so much.